All things health and fitness, this is the Army Gymnastics Podcast.
The Army Gymnastics Podcast.
Discover a fitter, healthier you at armygymnastics.com.
Welcome to the Army Gymnastics Podcast. Today we're taking a deep dive into a really crucial topic, early menopause and mental health, and breaking the silence around it. This isn't just, a medical discussion. It's deeply personal. It affects millions, often in silence, and the consequences can be, life-altering. We came across some truly harrowing stories preparing for this. Lindsay Martin's experience, for example, really highlights the potential impact. Perimenopause triggered a rapid spiral into this dark, suffocating depression for her. It got so severe, tragically, she attempted suicide and ended up being sectioned under the Mental Health Act. Her husband, who's actually a GP, saw this profound change happen almost overnight. He described her losing all joy, feeling this terrifying lack of emotion, just plagued by constant intrusive thoughts, like wading through treacle, she said. Just imagine that feeling, waking up completely disconnected from yourself, your emotions, everything. That was her reality. And while Lindsay's story is extreme, the feelings behind it, they resonate with so many women, particularly those diagnosed with primary ovarian insufficiency, or POI. We'll explain that term in a moment. Their first reaction is often feeling devastated, shocked, completely confused.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But amidst that despair, there's often this immense sense of relief,
Right.
when they finally understand why they're feeling this way, when the hidden cause is identified.
Exactly, like Tanya Ernst shared. She felt such comfort, such validation when her doctor, Karen Adams, told her, "You're not crazy, this is hormonal imbalance." Tanya said she desperately needed to hear that. It made her feel not damaged or weak, just someone going through a very real, very physiological shift. And importantly, a treatable one.
That validation is powerful.
So our mission today is really to shed light on this often misunderstood connection. We want to unpack the science, why these hormone shifts can hit mental health so hard. We'll explore the lived experiences, those personal stories, and crucially, we'll highlight the solutions, the support that is available. It's really time to break the silence.
It really is.
Okay, so let's start by defining our terms. Understanding the landscape here is crucial. When we talk about menopause itself, we're pinpointing that specific point, right? After 12 straight months with no period, average age is usually around 51, 52, kind of the end point.
That's right. But the lead up, and sometimes much earlier onset, is where a lot of the mental health shifts really begin. And that's often where the confusion lies. People often mix up menopause with perimenopause. Perimenopause is that transitional phase before the final period. It can last for months or even years, sometimes up to a decade. Periods get erratic, lighter, heavier, less frequent. But the key thing happening is these significant, often quite wild fluctuations in hormones like estrogen and progesterone. That's the roller coaster. And that's often when mood changes really kick in.
Right, the roller coaster before the final stop. And then there's something even earlier.
Yes, premature ovarian insufficiency, or POI. You might hear it called premature menopause or premature ovarian failure too. This is when the ovaries stop working properly, either partially or completely, much earlier than average, specifically before age 40.
Before 40. Wow, that's significantly earlier.
It is. It's a major departure from the typical timeline and brings its own unique set of challenges.
And the numbers, they're actually quite striking. POI affects about 1 in 10,000 women under 20, but then it jumps. 1 in 1,000 women under 30. And by under 40, it's 1 in 100.
Yeah, those aren't small numbers. We're talking about a significant number of women facing this, often at a very young age.
And the impact. It's described as life-changing, isn't it? With profound consequences. Physical, psychological, social.
Exactly. And the key insight here isn't just the physical symptoms, though those are real. It's the early nature of these changes. It's the unexpected loss of reproductive function, often leading to infertility. That can completely shatter life goals. There's social stigma involved, disruption of social roles. It triggers this deep grief, like any major loss, a loss of control over the future, you imagine. That's the hidden crisis.
Absolutely. And part of that crisis is fueled by this pervasive, really harmful idea that feeling depressed during these years is just normal, something you just have to put up with. Lindsay's story really fights against that.
It does. And that misconception is so damaging, we have to be crystal clear. Serious depression should never be viewed as a normal event. Never. It's a medical illness that needs the same attention as any other. It's insidious because this myth stops women seeking help when they're most vulnerable. Think about it. Depression affects maybe 25% of women at some point, much higher than men, but it's actually quite rare for depression to start for the first time after menopause is totally complete.
Interesting.
Right. It really highlights perimenopause as this key window of vulnerability. It's not normal suffering. It needs addressing.
So beyond the hot flashes and night sweats people often talk about, what are the common mental health symptoms we see? You mentioned unstable moods affect a huge percentage, like 68% of women in perimenopause.
That's a big one. But it's a whole cluster, really. Mood dysregulation, intense anxiety, irritability that can really strain relationships. Sleep problems are huge. Forgetfulness, that brain fog people talk about. Trouble concentrating. And often a drop in libido, which impacts intimacy and self-esteem.
Like Lindsay experienced feeling unrecognizable to yourself.
Precisely. And what makes these mood symptoms so distressing is their sheer unpredictability. They're 100% unpredictable. It's not like PMS where you might expect it cyclically. With perimenopause, hormonal control is just dysregulated. The highs are higher, the lows lower. A woman can literally wake up not knowing how she's going to feel.
That sounds terrifying. That lack of control must be a huge part of the distress.
It is. That feeling of being completely out of control, like something scary and inexplicable is happening to you. Your inner compass is just spinning. It erodes your sense of stability, your sense of self.
Which sounds incredibly destabilizing. But are some women more vulnerable to this than others? It doesn't hit everyone the same way, right?
That's a crucial point. Yes, there are definite risk factors. And understanding these helps us identify who might need more support. One of the absolute biggest risk factors, a history of mental health conditions. Women who've had depression before, or severe PMS or postpartum depression, they're at significantly higher risk for what's often called menopausal-associated depression. For many, it's actually a relapse of that pre-existing vulnerability triggered by the hormonal shifts.
That makes sense. What else?
Well, the intensity of the hormonal changes themselves and the severity of vasomotor symptoms, VMS, that's the hot flashes, night sweats, they matter too. Research clearly shows VMS are highly correlated with both new depression and anxiety and relapse of prior depression.
And the sleep disruption from night sweats must play a huge role there.
A major role. Constant waking, drenched in sweat, it creates this vicious cycle. Poor sleep worsens mood, anxiety makes sleep harder. It just spirals.
So biological factors, physical symptoms. What about life circumstances? Psychosocial factors.
Huge impact there too. Especially for women with early menopause, POI. Fertility-related grief is a big one. And lack of emotional support. These are identified as key contributors. There's often this profound sense of shock and distress at the diagnosis, plus the stigma of infertility, altered life goals. It's a lot to process.
I can only imagine.
And beyond fertility, other stressful life events are strongly associated. Things like chronic illness, relationship problems, kids leaving home, financial worries, lower education level, even decreased sexual activity. Being single or divorced can also add to the risk, maybe less built-in support.
And attitude matters too, how you view aging or menopause itself.
Surprisingly, yes. A negative perception can genuinely increase vulnerability. It's like setting yourself up for a harder time.
What about personality?
Yes, underlying personality traits factor in, specifically neuroticism, which is just a psychological term for a tendency towards negative mood and anxiety that significantly predicts a higher chance of major depression or anxiety disorders during menopause. If you're already prone to worry, this transition might feel overwhelming.
Okay. And for POI specifically, does the age of diagnosis matter?
It does. Younger age at POI diagnosis seems to increase the risk of depressive symptoms, probably because it's more unexpected, more disruptive to life plans if you're, say, in your 20s or early 30s.
And pre-existing health conditions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Having even one chronic medical condition before menopause can basically double the risk of depression. And if physical health problems impair your ability to function day-to-day, your job, your roles, that increases depression risk by a massive 88%. It shows how interconnected physical and mental health are.
That's a complex web of risk factors. Were there any findings that surprised you in the research?
A couple of things were quite nuanced, yeah. One study found that having a known genetic cause for POI was actually linked to lower depressive symptoms, which is counterintuitive.
Huh. Any theories why?
Maybe knowing the cause provides a different coping framework or changes expectations. It needs more research. Also, while a high burden of VMS overall is linked to depression, that same study found night sweats specifically weren't independently associated. So it's likely the cumulative burden, the overall impact, rather than one single symptom. The picture's complex.
It really highlights how individual this experience is. Okay, so we understand the symptoms, the risks. Let's get into the why. What's actually happening in the brain during these hormonal shifts? What's the science telling us?
This is where it gets really fascinating, providing that biological explanation for the emotional turmoil. Essentially, hormonal instability during this transition negatively impacts the limbic and prefrontal circuits.
Okay, break that down for us. Limbic and prefrontal.
So the limbic system is like your brain's emotional center, processing fear, pleasure, memory. The prefrontal cortex is the executive suite planning, judgment, emotional regulation. When these critical areas are negatively impacted by fluctuating hormones, it's like your internal mood thermostat gets completely thrown off. It directly increases vulnerability to depression and anxiety. Your brain's ability to manage its own emotional state is basically compromised.
How exactly does estrogen withdrawal cause that?
It triggers a whole cascade. First, it disrupts serotonergic concentration, serotonin, that key mood chemical. Its levels and availability get messed up. Second, it upregulates HPA axis reactivity. That's your body's main stress response system. Upregulated means you become much more sensitive to stress, more anxious, more vigilant. Your stress response is on a hair trigger.
Okay.
And third, it alters signaling through specific estrogen receptors in the brain, ERA and ERI. When the communication gets disrupted, it further contributes to mood lability, those unpredictable highs and lows. The brain's mood pathways just aren't working optimally.
And estradiol, the main estrogen, is key here.
Absolutely vital. E2, the most potent estrogen, normally amplifies serotonergic tone. It helps your brain make more serotonin. It also lowers an enzyme called MAOA, which breaks down mood chemicals like serotonin. So estrogen helps both make and preserve these key neurotransmitters.
So when E2 levels drop and fluctuate?
Exactly. It becomes much harder for the brain to produce and maintain stable levels of these mood chemicals. It's like the factory's short on supplies and the cleanup crews working overtime creates a chemical imbalance.
And we see similar patterns elsewhere, like postpartum.
Precisely. The link between low or fluctuating estrogen, sleep disturbance, and mood disorders is very clear in postpartum depression, too. It shows this recurring vulnerability tied to major hormonal shifts across a woman's life.
And for women with a history of depression, is there a specific biological reason they're more vulnerable during perimenopause?
Yes, the research suggests so. In those women, increased variability in FSH and estrogen levels, along with lower levels of another hormone called inhibin B, are specifically linked to depression relapse. It strongly suggests their brain chemistry is just more acutely sensitive to these particular hormonal fluctuations, making them a high-priority group for proactive care.
Understanding that biology must be so validating. Okay, so given all this, let's talk solutions. How should depression in perimenopause or early menopause be assessed? What are the first steps if someone seeks help?
The assessment is absolutely key to get the right treatment. It starts with a really careful, thorough history. The doctor needs to understand all the symptoms, emotional and physical. When did they start? How severe are they? They'll also do a physical exam and run blood tests. Crucially, checking ovarian function hormone levels like FSH, estradiol, and also thyroid function. Thyroid issues can mimic depression or perimenopause symptoms very closely.
Good point.
And they'll ask about life stressors too, because everything's interconnected.
And ruling out other conditions is important.
Essential. Because symptoms overlap so much. You need to rule out major depression that's not hormonally driven, anxiety disorders, bipolar disorder, even things like long COVID or rheumatologic diseases that can cause fatigue and mood changes. A really comprehensive workup ensures you're treating the right underlying cause.
Makes sense. So once other things are ruled out, for women whose symptoms seem primarily linked to perimenopause, what's the first-line treatment? You mentioned MHT or HRT.
Yes, for many women without other complex factors, menopausal hormone therapy, MHT, is often considered the first choice treatment, particularly for the unstable moods when it's started at the right time.
But there's still confusion around MHT, right? Because of that big study years ago.
Oh, absolutely. The 2002 Women's Health Initiative study caused widespread fear and confusion, but we have much better understanding now. The key clarification is that the risks identified in that study, heart attacks, strokes, clots, certain cancers, were primarily in women who started HRT a decade or more after menopause began, often in their 70s. Starting hormones that late, especially if arterial plaques are already present, can actually be risky. It's about the timing.
So what about starting earlier? During perimenopause or soon after the last period?
That's where the story changes dramatically. For women starting MHT then, or within 10 years of their last period, there's actually a wide variety of health benefits. We're talking reduced heart risk, lower rates of lung and colon cancer, significantly better bone density, meaning fewer hip fractures, even potential protection against dementia. Some regimens might even lower breast cancer risk.
Wow, that's a very different picture.
It is. The timing is crucial. And importantly for our discussion, MHT has an impressive ability to steady a patient's moods.
Like Tanya Arens experienced, feeling like herself again.
Exactly. She said, by the end of the first month, I felt much more like myself. No more random crying. I felt amazing. For mood symptoms driven by perimenopausal hormone shifts, estrogen works most of the time. It can be truly transformative.
What does MHT usually involve, and are there still risks?
Typically, it's estrogen off in a patch, which is generally preferred as it bypasses the liver, or a pill. And if a woman still has her uterus, she'll also need progesterone. Progesterone protects the uterine lining from building up, which prevents cancer risk. Though some women find progesterone itself can cause side effects like bloating, headaches, sometimes even mood changes, ironically.
Okay.
And yes, there are potential risks, even when started appropriately. Small increased risks of breast cancer, blood clots, stroke. The magnitude increasing over prolonged use is the key phrase. The longer you're on it, the slightly higher these risks might become. And very rarely, depression can be a side effect of HRT. Also, stopping estrogen suddenly can sometimes trigger depression if you have a history. So it requires careful management and discussion with your doctor.
So MHT is a powerful option. What about antidepressants? When do they come into play?
Antidepressants are another key tool, especially if symptoms are severe or if MHT isn't appropriate or fully effective. Often they're used in combination with MHT. The go-to class is usually the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs. Think Prozac, fluoxetine, Zoloft, sertraline, Paxil, paroxetine. Celexa, citalopram is another common one. They work by increasing serotonin levels in the brain.
Do they have side effects?
They can. Things like nervousness, insomnia, nausea, sometimes sexual side effects. Doctors usually start with a low dose and increase slowly to minimize these. And an important point, while low-dose SSRIs can sometimes help with hot flashes, those low doses generally do little effect on the anxiety or depressive symptoms. You usually need a standard therapeutic dose for mood improvement.
Okay, so you mentioned using them together. Is combining MHT and antidepressants particularly effective? Is there a synergy?
Yes, absolutely. And the evidence for this is really strong and encouraging. Multiple studies, including a big 2023 review combining lots of data, clearly show that adding systemic estradiol with or without progesterone to an SSRI like fluoxetine leads to much higher response and remission rates.
How much higher?
Significantly. We're talking remission rates up to 92% with the combination, compared to maybe 48% with just one treatment alone. That's a huge difference for women struggling.
Why does combining them work so well? Is there a biological reason?
There is, and it's fascinating. Estradiol, the E2 from MHT, actually helps serotonin work better. It increases an enzyme needed to make serotonin, and it inhibits the serotonin transporter. That's the thing that usually clears serotonin away. So estradiol helps keep more serotonin active in the brain for longer. Combined with progesterone, it also affects estrogen receptors in ways that seem to make serotonin signaling more efficient. It's like MHT primes the brain for the antidepressant to work even better. A real biological teamwork.
That's incredible. So much hope there. But what if someone tries these treatments, maybe even combined, and they're still not feeling better? What's next?
That's a really important practical question. First, give the treatment enough time. Hormones, maybe 2-4 weeks for mood effects. Antidepressants, you need a good 1-2 months at an adequate dose.
Patience is key.
Definitely. If hormones alone aren't enough after that time, adding an antidepressant is a strong recommendation. If an SSRI antidepressant isn't working, or the side effects are too much, doctors will usually suggest switching to a different SSRI first. People respond differently. Or they might combine the SSRI with another type of antidepressant, or add MHT if it wasn't already being used. It's about working with your doctor to systematically find the right combination and dosage for you. It's often an iterative process.
Okay, so medical treatments sound very effective. What about holistic and lifestyle approaches? Can they make a real difference alongside medical care?
They absolutely can. They're not just minor additions. They are often a crucial part of feeling well and managing symptoms. They really complement medical treatments. We found around 11 different potential strategies that can be part of a holistic plan.
Let's hear about them. What's first?
Regular exercise. We know it's good generally, but specifically for menopause mood issues, it's powerful. Reduces stress, boosts mood via endorphins, those natural feel-good chemicals. Studies show aerobic exercise, brisk walking, running, swimming, dancing, improves mood swings and irritability. It helps you process anxiety, too. Builds mental resilience alongside physical strength.
Makes sense. What about therapy?
Psychotherapy is fundamental. Two types are highly recommended here. Interpersonal therapy focuses on relationship changes and how they impact depression, very relevant during midlife transitions. And cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, it helps change negative thought patterns. NICE, the UK health body, recommends it for low mood and perimenopause. It helps with mood swings, anger, intrusive thoughts. Reviews show it makes a noticeable difference.
But probably best combined with medication for severe cases.
Usually, yes. Psychotherapy alone might not be enough for severe depression, but it's incredibly powerful, especially when paired with medication or MHT.
Okay. What else? Gut health.
Yes, probiotic supplements. The gut-brain axis is real. Improving gut health with probiotics can impact mood. Certain strains might reduce anxiety, depression risk, boost mood, help with mood swings, even improve sleep. It all connects.
Interesting. Any specific supplements?
Ashwagandha shows promise. It's an adaptogen herb. One 8-week study found it improved low mood and irritability in perimenopausal women, with better scores on depression, stress, and anxiety scales. Seems to help regulate the stress response. And magnesium. Super important for the brain's limbic system emotional control. Estrogen drops can lower magnesium levels, a potential double whammy. Reviews suggest magnesium supplements significantly reduce depression symptoms generally. Worth considering through diet or supplements.
What about diet overall?
The Mediterranean diet comes up strong. Lots of fruits, veggies, nuts, seeds, whole grains, olive oil. It's anti-inflammatory, has phytoestrogens, linked to less severe menopause symptoms and a significantly reduced risk of depressed mood, especially extra virgin olive oil. Also, omega-3s from oily fish or supplements. Anti-inflammatory, interact with mood-related brain molecules, linked to a significantly lower risk of depression in postmenopausal women. Great for brain health.
And things to avoid, like sugar.
Definitely limiting refined carbs and sugar. Those blood sugar spikes and crashes really mess with energy and mood, causing irritability, anger. Smart swaps, whole grains, beans, plain yogurt help keep things stable. Nourish your brain.
What about managing stress directly?
Mindfulness. Practices like meditation, yoga, deep breathing, they help regulate emotions, reduce negative reactions, lower the stress hormone cortisol, training your brain to be calmer, and absolutely critical. Better sleep hygiene. Poor sleep tanks your mood, makes everything worse. Consistent schedule, avoid caffeine screens before bed, cool, dark room, manage night sweats. Prioritizing sleep is non-negotiable. St. John's wort. Traditional herb for mood. Some reviews support it for mild to moderate depression. But, and this is a huge but,
Caution needed.
major caution, it interacts dangerously with many drugs, especially antidepressants, birth control, blood thinners. Must check with a doctor or pharmacist before even thinking about trying it. Safety first.
That's a great range of holistic options. But even with all this knowledge, getting the right diagnosis and care seems to be a huge hurdle for many women. Finding doctors who understand.
It's a massive systemic problem. The reality is, historically, doctors get little or no training on menopause care, maybe one lecture or less in their entire residency.
One lecture? Seriously?
Seriously. So women go to their doctors and they're often dismissed, told, well, this is aging, get used to it, or scared off hormones with outdated info. Oh no, that's dangerous. This lack of knowledge, this misinformation among providers, it leads to so much unnecessary suffering and misdiagnosis. It's a critical failure.
Because menopause isn't just getting older.
Exactly. It's a normal human experience, yes. But it's also a time of dysregulation of multiple organ systems that lead to significant symptoms and increased vulnerability to chronic illness. Just dismissing it is detrimental to long-term health. It's a missed chance for prevention.
So this raises the big question. What can actually be done to fix this? How do we get better care and support out there?
It needs a multi-level approach. First, we desperately need comprehensive care addressing both physical and psychological aspects early on. Not just treating hot flashes, but actively screening for mood issues. Especially in high-risk groups like women with POI, routine depression screening should be standard. Catch it early.
And support beyond the doctor's office.
Crucial. Robust psychosocial support, connecting women with trusted communities with collaborative care teams. Low social support is common in POI, leading to isolation. Building community, sharing experiences, it improves well-being, reduces stress, builds coping skills. It turns a lonely struggle into a shared journey. Validation is key.
And the stakes are high if that support isn't there.
Tragically high. POI, with its link to infertility, has been clearly associated with suicide related to the stigma of infertility. Suicide rates are higher in women experiencing infertility. This underscores the absolute urgency for proper empathetic support. It's literally life-saving.
Are there positive signs, initiatives working on this?
There are. Places like Stanford's program in menopause and healthy aging are trying to expand access, research, advocate, and importantly, train new providers. Because globally, there are maybe only 1,800 certified menopause specialists. That's tiny compared to the need. Training more professionals is paramount to closing this knowledge gap.
So at the end of the day, knowledge is power here.
Absolutely. Knowledge is key. That relief women feel, like Tanya, when they finally understand the hormonal reason for their struggles. It's profound. It tells them it's real, physiological, and treatable, not just in their heads. Empowering women with knowledge and equipping doctors with evidence-based training, that's how we break the silence.
It really makes you think. Considering this profound impact hormones have on mental health, what responsibility do we really have as a society, as a healthcare system, to ensure every woman gets comprehensive education and support through perimenopause and early menopause? It feels like it shouldn't just be about treating symptoms reactively. We need to recognize this window of vulnerability for mental health and tackle it proactively, systemically. It feels like a societal imperative, not just something individuals should have to navigate alone. For expert fitness advice and personalized plans, visit armygymnastics.com, your go-to resource to reach your goals. Start your journey today at armygymnastics.com.
Thanks for listening. For all things health and fitness, subscribe to our newsletter today. Find out more at armygymnastics.com.